Hello and welcome to the next YouTube video on my channel. If you want to get better at chess, then this video is just right for you. In this video I will show and explain you how to calculate correctly in chess. This is part 3 of this video series, so if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2 yet, watch them first and then come back to this video again. In part 1, I've started with the first technique and rule that you should always note in your chess games, and that was the rule of the pawn square. And in part 2, I've talked about the arithmetic counting. In this video I will show you the next rule and explain you how it works. So let's get started. No less important than the rule of the pawn square and the rule of the arithmetic counting is the counting of how many beats there are. Counting the number of attacks and defenses is often of great importance in a chess game. This is well illustrated by Laska's textbook examples. A beginner chess player about to play e6, e5 with the black chess pieces counts as follows. I go forward with the pawn, then he, so my opponent will take a pawn, I will take a knight, he takes with the knight, I take with the bishop, and so on. This way of calculation is completely wrong, because time and mental energy are wasted. By the third or by the fourth move, the player usually forgets the pieces which have been exchanged and gets confused in his own calculation. It's more correct and simpler to reason as follows. I go ahead with the pawn, so e6, e5, and then it will be under the 6 hits or under the 6 attacks of the white chess pieces. But it will also be under the 6 defenses of my 6 chess pieces. So the value of the attacking and the value of the defending chess pieces is the same. So pawn e6, e5, this move is quite safe. It remains to add one more thing. Convinced in this purely arithmetic way in the possibility of the move with the pawn from e6 on e5, you have to mentally imagine the final position after the general move and consider whether it's favorable for you or whether it's good for you to do this move. Since mental energy is not wasted on counting exchanges and attention is not dulled, this is much easier to do. Let's imagine that in this position, before you do the move, the black pawn on h6 still stands on h7. Then this pawn move, so from e6 to e5, is impossible. In fact, after the big exchange in the center of the chessboard, all light pieces and both rooks will disappear of both armies, leaving only the queens on the chessboard. So, after the big exchange, all the light pieces of black are away, and the both rooks. And of course this pawn also isn't here, and the queen stands here. But the light pieces of the white army are also away. So 1, 2, 3. The both rooks are away, and the pawn also isn't here. And now it's white's move, and all the lines are open now. And by means of queen d2 on d8, the white army can set a checkmate for the black king, because the pawn here isn't standing on h6, leaving him the only way to escape on h7, but the pawn is here on h7. So white announces the black king's army a checkmate. In addition, before such a move as pawn e6, e5, before this position, white allows which allows white to start a series of forcing moves. It's very important not to interrupt it at any moment for other purposes. It is useful to mentally remove from the board one or another chess piece and analyze possible consequences, for example opening lines. So let's consider a few more examples in which various complications arise when counting the attacks and defenses. In the following position that you can see right now on the chessboard, it will be a mistake to take out white's pawn on e4 with your knight on d6 when you're playing the black chess pieces, because the pawn on e4 is attacked 3 times, but he's only protected 2 times. The value of attacking and defending chess pieces are unequal, and black will lose quality if they play this move, so taking out here with the knight on d6, the pawn on e4, because after knight takes out the pawn here, the white army can take out black's knight on e4 either with the bishop on c2 or with their own knight on g3. let's say for example at first with the knight on g3 here. It's not important, it can also be with the bishop. And now the black army can take out your bishop on e4 with the rook like this, because then the white army will just take out the rook here with their own bishop on c2. And that means that, and this will be very bad for the black chess army. In the next example that you can see right now on the chessboard, the chess pieces that are attacking the pawn on e4, so the black chess pieces, that's obviously the knight on f6 and the bishop on c6, are both also under attack. Therefore, it is impossible to play knight f6 takes pawn e4, because then the rook here would take out the bishop on c6, and black would lose a bishop and a knight and a pawn just for one rook, which would be bad for them. It is of course also impossible to play here bishop c6 takes pawn on e4, because then the white rook will do the same just with the knight and take out the knight on f6. If black would try to get out of trouble by means of bishop also takes knight on f3, then the white rook could just take out the black bishop here, and the black army will obviously again lose a chess piece. In the next position, after white plays bishop f4 takes out black's pawn on c7, the black army will play pawn a7, a6, attacking white's knight on b5, which is also defending the bishop on c7. So the black army are winning one of the chess pieces, either the bishop or the knight. The same unstable position would happen if the white army wouldn't take out the black pawn on c6 with the bishop on f4, but rather with knight on b5. Because now the knight on c7 is defended by the white's pawn on f4. Black attacks now the bishop here on f4. He can't escape here because of the black knight here, and he can't escape here, and because of that he has to escape here. Now the black king moves on c6. Now he's attacking both of the chess pieces. Now the white knight escapes here on e8, defending also the bishop on d6, but after bishop f6, the white army again loses one of their chess pieces, either the bishop or the knight. The number of possible attacks and defenses should always be provided for advance. Consider, for example, the following position. That's also the last example and position that I will show you in this video. If black wants to play pawn d5, d4, then they have to do the following calculation before. On d4, the pawn is now attacked once by the knight on b3, but also defended once by the rook on d7. In the following three moves, the white army can mobilize 3 chess pieces more to attack the pawn here on d4. First, rook c1, rook d1, then rook c2, rook d2, and finally bishop g3 on f2. But at the same time, the black army also can mobilize 3 other chess pieces to defend their pawn on d4. First, knight on g7 on e6, then bishop f8 on g7, and finally rook e8 on rook d8. So because of this, there is no immediate danger to the pawn to play here now on d4. It is also not seen that white could strengthen the attack or attack any of the defending pieces, any of the black pieces in the near future. But it would be wrong to play pawn d4 on d3 after the white army has attacked the pawn, let's say with rook d2. Because the white army can mobilize 2 more chess pieces to attack black's pawn on d3 now in the next 2 moves. This will be rook d1 and knight c3. But the black army can only mobilize 1 more chess piece in the next 2 moves to defend the pawn here, and that's rook d8. That means that the white army here will win this pawn now. That was it then already with this video about how to calculate correctly in chess part 3. In the near future, I'll also make a video about part 4, in which I will show and explain you the next rule technique that you should always note in your chess games. So feel free to check it out then also. I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, feel free to leave a like there and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, bye!